So this is a garage, quite a big garage. It's probably a little bit smaller than the one we've got at the minute, but the one we've got at the minute as well has got an upstairs, great big enormous upstairs. So what we did in the old place, well, where we're living, the downstairs of the garage was a workshop and storage space for my tools and where we'd sort of build things for customers and whatever. And then upstairs was a clean area for suitcases, stuff from the house, furniture, that kind of thing, Christmas decorations. So because we haven't got an upstairs here, what I'm going to do as a sort of priority, given the date, is build a wall along here, have that section over there as a clean storage space for suitcases and Christmas decorations and whatever nonsense my wife keeps buying, and then have this space over here for a workshop, store my tools. There is a safe room so I can store my tools in that, but anything non-valuable will be going in the garage. So as a sort of a priority, I'm going to get that wall built up there, just so that when we take the decorations down at home after New Year, then we've got a clean area here to store them. There's no point shipping them backwards and forwards. I may as well bring them here and then it's done and dusted. So keep watching and see how we get on with that one. Oh, sorry, as well, while we're here, I'm going to leave a bit of a corridor to sort of come out where that wall stubs out. And then we've got a corridor here, so we're going to have a washing machine there, or hopefully. The washing machine is just for the dog's bedding and the dog's towels and for my dust sheets for work. Chest freezer there, and then maybe a bit of storage there. And then that'll end somewhere here so that that door will swing open and we can access it properly. Believe it or not, we've got 3-phase electricity there. It's all new. The previous guy paid £6 to have it all buried down the drive as well. So when we've just had Storm Dara come in, whilst all the neighbours around here, overhead power lines went down on them and took them out. We had cable buried under the ground, so nobody lost any power at this property. Unfortunately, no one's living here. You can already see that RCBO has been put in backwards compared to that one. A few silly little mistakes, so we'll have a look and see what's going on in there. And got a 3-phase socket and a single-phase socket there. We don't need those, so we'll pull them out. It's quite a bit of a mess, to be honest, so we'll get it sorted. Stay tuned, keep following and see how it progresses. So job for today is to get a dividing wall up here in the garage to give us a clean area in this half of the garage, and then a workshopy, tooly, dirty space over that side, so that over on the clean area we can store things from the house, furniture, suitcases, that kind of thing, and they won't get dirty or dusty, oily. And then over this side is going to be tools. So what have we got to do it with? We've got 3 sheets of 18mm OSB. The only reason I'm using 18mm OSB is because a friend gave it to me, left over from a project of his. But I am going to use that wall to put shelves up on, so I want something substantial to fix into. We're using 3x2 timbers, so I've got 2 4.8 metre lengths. One's going to go straight across the bottom, one's going to go across the top somewhere, maybe the head plates, foot plates. I've got absolutely loads. Well, I've got 20 lengths of 3x2 there. The reason I'm using 3x2 is we haven't got doesn't need to be structural in any way. It isn't going to be insulated. It's just going to be a wall to divide 2 areas and put some shelves up on. We've got fixings, got nails from a nail gun, 63mm, I think they're 90mm. We've got a nail gun, we've got a drill, an impact driver, some whip, horses, got chop saw and stand, got a hop up, some ladders, some hammers. Hopefully that's all we're going to need. You don't need all the fancy tools, you just need a bench and a handsaw and a tape measure really. This is just going to help us go on. So first job is to work out where we're going to put it. Now I think it'd be best to come along a 6x2 here, all the way down. It's in pretty straight and it gives us a straight edge to go off. Fortunately we've got these cables. We follow along, it goes to the switch and to these lights, which should be called darks because they're not really doing anything. So we need to shift those cables. We've got these overhead storage devices which we need to pull down. There's one there as well. So we need to get that down so it gives a clear run. That gives us a straight space to work off. So I'll fix a head plate first. Coming off that, come straight down there with a wall plate. And then off that, put a footer in. And then off that we can put a load of uprights. And we can fix the walls. Make it sound so simple. Let's get on with it. So first off, we'll take these down. Just 2 screws up there. So we'll undo that. I don't know that's fixed. I think this is just glued on. It's just screwed into the RSJ as you would. And careful where I put the screws down. We don't want to drive any equipment over them at any point. The next one. So it's screwed in from above. We're going to get a tool in there to undo them. Get that cable out of the way and any clips. So that timber now is completely clear for us to fix to. So we'll just check now that down the entire length of that timber, it's free of anything that's going to get in the way or miss the clip there. That's why we check. That cable is in the way, so we're going to have to pull the timber over the top of it. It's all free all the way down. And we're also just checking that there aren't any cables going through or anything, that when we put the nails through, we're going to pierce or catch, and they're on. So we're all good to go. So we're going to use 3 OSB sheets along that length, side by side. The OSBs are 1220 in width, 1220 millimeters. So 3 of those together is 3660. So we're going to cut the head plate, foot plate, or sole plate to 3660. Plus a tiny little bit extra that we can trim down once it's all up in place. That way we've not got to trim loads down later and we don't waste anything, and we're not messing around where we don't have to be. So I'll cut those to length now and then we will crack on. So 3660, we'll give it a little bit extra, so we'll call it 3700 on both. Those cut to length. Put this out the way for a minute. And we'll see about getting them all fixed in. So we've got this cable hanging down, we need to go over the top of that. that's one holding it in. Now what I need to do is get it running square with the RSJ, just so it looks nice, square and tidy enough. To do that, I've just got a scrap of plywood, 18mm ply. What I'm going to do is put that up alongside it, nail it in, move it along, nail it in, so that all the way down the side of that head plate I've got an 18mm gap. And that way when I need to, I can just slide my OSB sheets straight up into it and everything will be nice and snug. So right at the end, I'm just going to slide this 18mm ply in, make sure there's a bit of wiggle room, hold it all nice and square, and then fire one in. Another one. And I'm just going to keep walking all the way down and working all the way down and just keep repeating that. I've got that nice even gap all the way down and that'll pull that header straight and square. See now that's a bit looser, so we need to sort of push that in now to keep that straight rather than pull it out. Okay, so that head plate's in now. Now what I've got to work around is, as you come down the wall, what I was going to do is fix it to the wall. What I didn't see is where the foot didn't step out. So what I'm going to have to do is fix it sort of round about here, leave it hanging, and then secure it to the footer down there somewhere, and then start the OSB against this, nailing in this way. Not much of a drama, but we'll get there. So I'm going to give it a bit of a sweep with one of these things. I'm an electrician, so I'm not too familiar with it, but I've heard rumours about what you can do with them. Then I'm going to put just a strip of 4-inch damp course membrane down, and then I'm going to put the footer over the top of that. The reason I'm using that is just to stop any moisture or spills or anything just coming up and wicking into the timber and causing any damage over the long term. Not going to happen really, but for the sake of a few quid of that, it's no drama. I think it's something like this. I think so. And then I think what we do is leave it in a pile like that, is that right? And then somebody else will sort it out. So, head plate's in, that's just placed in for now. What I'm going to do is take a measurement from top to bottom so I can see the length of my uprights. It's 230, I can't quite see, so I'm going to cut it to 231 and be a bit too long and we can just trim it down. So, 2 pieces of scrap cut. What we're going to do now, fix them through. I've changed from 90mm nails to 63mm nails. that in place and fix through the top and bottom. I'm going to change over again from 60mm to 90mm nails. So we've got the upright in a rough position, down to the bottom there. What I'm going to do is fix a nail through the top, then I'm going to make sure it's level and plumb from all directions, and then fix a nail in the bottom, and that's going to hold that all in place for now. So the top's going nowhere. That's plumb that way. We've also got to make sure it's plumb that way, so it's not like that or like that. Let's bang on there. Let's come out again there. Bang on. Bang on. It's also running completely parallel to that foot plate, so we'll fix that in. Now that is fixed completely to this. Although the sole plate isn't fixed yet, we're going to get all that bit of a frame built and racked, and then we're going to fix through down into the ground. So next job is to get a few uprights in place, fix a sheet to it, hold everything square and true, then we can fix right through into the ground. Jobs are good. So that's the first one, well, second one fixed in now. And then if we measure centre of this to the end, it gives us 405. I've taken the measurement of 405, taken the thickness of this, which is 39, taken that off, that gives us 366. I've cut a piece 366. I'm going to use the same piece throughout this whole job, not going to use different pieces. What I'm going to do, put this here, cut my next upright, butt it right up, fix it, take this to the top, put it up, fix it, and that's going to give us a 405 centre all the way down this wall. So that, for now, is treasure. We're not going to lose that, we're going to keep an eye on it. And we're going to cut or measure each upright as we go. We're not going to batch cut them because the floor might be slightly out that way or that way, or the roof might be slightly out that way or that way. So if we batch cut a load now, we might find that we've wasted them, we might need them longer than this one and this one. So we'll cut each one as we go. I'm not going to show you me measuring and cutting because it's quite boring. We'll fix them, get them in, and then next thing you'll see will be a wall framed. Then we'll stick the OSB sheet on, we'll rack it, we'll get it all nice and square. We're going to lift the OSB off the floor, we're not going to have it sitting on the floor, just so it doesn't track any damp up it or any moisture. I'll probably cut I'll trim a strip off the bottom and use that to support it on, so then we've got an 18mm gap all the way around just to prevent any tracking or any moisture getting into it or something like that. So, see how we get on in a sec. So, I'll show you one being fixed. There's our sacred piece of spacer, 3660. We'll get that in, knock this up nice and snug. Then what we've got to do is make sure we've got this flush with this on both sides. Which that is, and then we've also got to make sure it's running square and true, so it's not slightly off like this. You find cheap timber like this tends to be warped and twisted throughout, so we've got to make sure we've not got any twists there, otherwise the OSB won't sit flush to it. We'll leave that in so that when we nail through, the impact of the nail doesn't move it slightly. But we've got to be careful not to nail through it. So we'll use 2 nails on an angle. And then we'll repeat the same at the top. We'll repeat the same up at the top. Same piece of spacing material. That's snug. I'm going to make sure it's flush with this piece, which it isn't at the minute. That's good. I'm going to put this piece back in so that when we nail it, it doesn't move. Bear with me. Knot those heads in so that they don't affect the next one. Take that out now, otherwise I'll go for a coffee and come back and won't know where I've put it. And then we're just going to repeat this all the way down. So we've got that much of the frame in. What we're going to do now is rip a piece of the 18mm OSB down. I've measured that for the right length, marked it up. I'm going to use a track saw. These DeWalt tracks are sort of rubberized and they stick. They hold themselves in place really well. But just for the purpose of this video, I'll show you these clamps as well. The DeWalt clamps that go with the track saw. So they slide into the groove, slide underneath, and then you can clamp them up and they'll hold that track exactly where you want it, and they won't interfere with the saw running on the track. Again, at the other end, you don't really need to, but just for the purpose of this video I'm doing it. And then that's going nowhere. This isn't an actual plunge track saw, this is just a circular saw with a attachment that I bought off eBay for about 30 quid. It sits on there and turns it into a track saw, so it's really handy. Saves you spending another 600 or 700 quid. And then you've just got that groove there, sits on that track, and the blade slides right down there. Pull the fence out of the way, keep it clear of the material, start it up, and work away. I'm going to use this piece now, the offcut, just to put on the floor, on the ground, to space this off the ground, just so we know it's not going to sit on the ground, it's not going to track any moisture up it, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Okay, change of plan. I've decided to put the OSB on from this side rather than from the other side, mainly because I did a slight cock-up and the gap, I was hoping to slide it in just there, is literally 18mm, not give or take a scrap. So when I was trying to get the OSB in and slide it down, it was just too tough. Come from this side, it's easier, just put it in place. That also gives me slight more of a bonus that on this side, everything is clean. And at some point in the future, I'll put something on the other side as well. Had to notch that down there very slightly just to go over that sill. So what I'm going to do is I've lined it up, and it's half on this upright. So I'm going to put a nail in the bottom, and then I'm going to use my level to make sure that, first of all, the upright is level, slightly bowed sometimes, and then I'm going to make sure that the OSB is level as well, and then when it is, I'm going to fix it. and then I'll just go around and fire a few nails in. I'll show you from the other side. So that OSB is half on this upright, and then the next OSB will be half on that upright as well. And then we've got some there, equal distance, just to fix to just give us some strength, some support, and everything will hold rigid. Don't forget this bottom isn't yet fixed in place, the foot plate. So once it's lined with OSB and everything's in and square, then I'm going to fix that bottom plate down to the ground, and then we're cooking. So I'll get on with that now. I've changed over to 63mm ring shank screws, so once they go in, they're not coming out again. Right, so that is square. Not square, sorry, level, blunt. And the level saying that's plumb, but it's not completely true, because there's more of a gap here, only marginally, you can't see it on the camera, than there is down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, fix one in there, and I'm going to sort of hold it up, maybe wedge this bottom corner up slightly to pull that over and then nail it. So in fact I'll get my pry bar now. See if that makes a difference. I think that's too much. It's important you get this very first one right, because if you get the first one right, everything else is machine cut in a factory, square, straight, and everything else will follow on. So I'm just going to find something to use as a spacer. A little knock and chisel. I'll try that to see if that works any better. It's even worse, typical. Right, I'm happy with that now. It's sitting on this offcut of OSB, so it's not sitting on the floor. So I'm going to get a few nails in, just double check everything. In fact, I'll check it up first. So this upright, that's bang on still. That's bang on. Get a few nails in. That's enough to hold it for now. And then what I'm going to do is measure off there to there, 405, get an upright, or a level, or a line, and then I know that I can nail down that line. Same there, and then I know I've also got another one there. Get everything nice and fixed, secure, and then I can just work my way along. So there's that wall boarded now with 3 sheets of OSB. It's not fixed on the uprights yet, all throughout, it's just fixed in place. There it is from behind. You can see where it's not fixed yet. There it is from behind. So the next step, I've not got time today, I've got to go out, is secure that foot plate on the ground. Next step following that is to build a wall along there over to that wall with a bit of a doorway in. I'll probably have it coming out 600 or 700 off that wall, so I can get a worktop in there and then build shelves above. And then all of a sudden, look at the amount of nice clean storage space we'll have. Before I can do too much, all the wiring needs looking at, because things like that are just lazy and dangerous. I had to notch that there to get that cable through for now. Can be sealed up eventually. Pull cord right in the middle of a garage, bizarre. But one of my next jobs in the new year are to come back and just rewire this small section. Put maybe a socket in here as well, just in case we need chargers or anything like that in the future from a little boy's car. And then get rid of all this. But it's another day. So the wall's built. Now what I need to do is fix it into the ground so it doesn't go anywhere. It's fixed to the top. If we fix the bottom, it's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to be rock solid and stay there as long as we need it to. So the way we're going to do that, starting at that end, I'm going to drill through the foot plate. I'm going to drill through the DPC piece of plastic. It's not really a great big issue. And then what I'm going to do is use an SDS drill and drill into the base of the concrete. Cut these. This is 10mm threaded bar. What I'm going to do is cut these so that they fit right to the bottom of the hole and stick out probably that much higher, an inch higher than the top of the sole plate. Then what I'm going to do is, using this resin, it's like a two-part thing. It comes with this nozzle and it mixes, there's two parts inside, it mixes it and it sets as hard as concrete, rock hard, it's great stuff. So I'm going to inject some of that into each hole, drop a piece of threaded bar in, give it however long it says on there, I think it's 24 hours to go hard, and then when I come back, I'm going to fit a washer over the top and then a nut and tighten it up so it's holding that tight down to the ground. So I'll start that now and we'll go through the process. So 10mm bit, I'm just going to go along and drill through each piece right in the centre, trying to hold the drill completely vertical and plumb. I'm stopping when I hit the concrete, I don't want to dull the blade. I don't need to go in every bay, it's a bit excessive. And then one somewhere towards the end. So now what I need to do is go along with a level and get the whole wall completely plumb this way. So it's we don't want it leaning that way or that way. We want all of these completely vertical. Once we've got that, then we'll start drilling through the concrete. Okay, so I'm going to use a spirit level to make sure this is plumb. If it needs adjusting, I can either give it a little kick. If it needs anything bigger, I've just got a scrap piece of wood to put on up to that piece and then just hit that with a hammer. So, needs to go up slightly. Right, that's good there. So I'm going to drill that. Got a 10mm SDS bit through the pre-drilled hole. What I'm going to do is pre-cut a few lengths of rod and put those in the holes to secure it in place whilst I'm knocking the rest, because I might get to this bit, have to knock it over, and I'll sort of move that hole from the one I pre-drilled. So I'll cut them now and I'll just put them in place. I'm not going to film cutting the steel rod because I've not got a vise here and I'll just look stupid. It's a nightmare trying to do it, hold it still and do it with a hacksaw, and I've not got a grinder here. So I'll get those cut, I'll hoover that hole out, and then I'll just drop it in temporarily for now. Right, that's the first one drilled. What I'm going to do, I'm not going to knock them in like I said I was. What I'm going to do is just get the resin straight in and then drop these straight in place, and then the cure time is 2 hours, so I'll come along 2 hours later and I'll tighten these up with a socket set, but I may as well just get them in rather than mess around putting them in to hold it in place and then taking them back out again. So here goes the first one. So in this you've got to just dispose of the first little bit in the tube, so I'll just get rid of it on a scrap of timber here. Okay, so stick that nozzle right down into the hole. Job done. It's not going to take a great deal, it just needs to bond it to the concrete at the bottom. What I've also done is put a nut on and a wash on before I started, because it might be the fact of where I've cut it isn't a suitable thread, and I don't want to find that out after this has gone off in the resin. And repeat the process. Quite a way out that one. Okay, that's right. So same again, 10mm SDS bit. Now, I said I was going to hoover it out. I've not got my hoover in my van, so the opposite, I've got a blower, a leaf blower, which I use for jobs like this, tidying up after myself. And I'm going to repeat that all the way down. Okay, now we've built this wall, the next step at some point is I'm going to build a workbench all the way down here, in fact all the way around the circumference of the room, with shelves above and plenty of storage underneath. Above the workbench I'm going to have sockets, so although they're not going to be powered up and live yet, what I'm going to do is first fix the cables in place now, so that I can put more OSB on here. As soon as I've got OSB on here, then I can start putting the shelves up and I can start moving stuff from my old house to this current place. So what we're going to have is probably double socket, double socket, double socket, I'd say. And then what I'm also going to do is put a light switch somewhere here. You can't see me, can you? What I'm going to do is put a light switch somewhere here, which will do that area all down there. So I'll get on with that and we'll see in a minute. So the workbench height is going to be about 950mm off the floor. The sockets, top of the socket is going to be about 120mm off the floor. So what I'm going to do is pull the cable in, just leave one end sort of in place, and then 120mm off the floor, I'm going to drill through these uprights so that I can pass my cable from one socket to the next. There's no point me keep going up and down like you would in a house, because I know I'm the only one going to be working here. I know not to drill anywhere at the same height as a socket so I don't go through a cable. So I'm just going to mark the height for that now, and then we're going to get some uprights drilled. So 120 to the top, and mark every other upright. So the drill bit I'm going to use to drill through the uprights is this. It's called a spade bit. This little bit on the end acts as a screw and it pulls through the wood, and then it pulls the cutting shank through behind it, and that cuts a nice hole out. That one's 20mm, so it's going to give us a 20mm diameter hole, which will be plenty to get a few cables through that we need. So let's watch. So there's my mark for the top of the socket. So I'm going to go sort of 50mm down. I'm going to go in the middle of this and just go straight through. When I've gone through, what I tend to do is put the drill on and just pull it through again, and it'll clear all of this mess, or some of this mess. Like that. That one I've just done. Don't know if you can see right in there. Has just hit one of the nails that was fixing the OSB. But we can see it, so I'll just go slightly higher than it, slightly lower. So they're all drilled all the way through and through the very end one. What I've also just done off camera is at this end I've drilled up there, and at this end I've drilled there. So that's going to give us a passage through from inside that wall to outside of that wall area. So the cable that we're going to be using for the sockets is 2.5mm squared twin and earth BS6242Y cable, which is basically what we call 2.5 twin and earth, and that's what it looks like. So you can see a brown sheath cable, a blue sheath cable, that's a twin, and then right in the middle you can see a bare piece of copper, that's the earth, so twin and earth. And then for the lighting we've got exactly the same, except this time it's 1.5mm squared. That's the size of the actual cable, the core of the cable. So what we're going to do is At some point when I get round to it, I'll put another socket somewhere there above that bench, or the bench that's going there. So I'll leave the cable dangling. I'll go up, across, sorry you can't see my finger, up, clip to that joist, come into this frame, and then there'll be one end of it there. That cable is then going to carry on through to the next socket, carry on through to the next socket, and then it's going to carry on through, go up through the hole that we've drilled up there. Then on the other side of the wall, I'm going to clip it along that joist there, come through there, and it's going to come down here and pick up some sockets for a washing machine, a chest freezer, and whatever else we're going to have there. So that's the plan with that, and let's see how we do it. So there's the cable. It's on my device. I don't know what you call these really. It helps you to spool the cable off. You can see the cardboard end of my drum of cable has seen better days and come off, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare to do this, but may as well show you the tough bits as well as the easy bits. So what we're going to do is pull the cable off. We're going to try and get it in a straight, nice piece like that. See, it's already started playing funny buggers. I'm going to feed it down through that hole. So we fed the cable from this side down through that hole there. I'm going to pull on it. When you're pulling on the cable, you need to take care not to cause any friction or any damage to the cable. And you can see how it's coming off the drum. It's a nightmare when it does this. So the easiest thing, taking care of the cable all the time, is to feed it through these holes. You don't want to be unspooling too much at any one time because you're just getting a tangle. Trying to not be in the way of the camera so you can get an idea of what we're doing. So I'm not pulling on this with my left hand, I'm pushing with my right hand, and then my left hand's taking up the slack. If you start pulling on it, you're going to start damaging the outer grey sheath of the cable, and you might have faults further down the line because of that. So, go straight up, along, and drops down. It's not quite long enough, we just need a little bit more. Right, so I'm going to go round to the other side now, and I'm going to feed that through the hole in the joist that we drilled. We've got enough there now to go along and to drop down to the next socket. So what we need to do now is work out where we're going to have the next socket. So I am going to suggest we'll have one in the middle, so we'll have one in the second bay, one in the fifth bay, and one in the eighth bay. So what we do there, we can either use a pair of side cutters, cut the cable, or it's easier to just leave it in a loop like this. Socket's going to be there, so we just leave that. That's enough now, or it's more than enough actually, to go to where the socket's going to be. We'll take that slat back up, and pull a bit more. Do the same here, and then we'll have one here, so we'll repeat that there, and then we'll leave that. We're not going to clip it inside, just going to leave it loose, and that's going to go somewhere like that. This bit, I don't know if you can see that. This bit here, we're just going to pull this long enough to go across the top there, and to drop down where we need it. When it comes off the drum like this, it's an absolute pain, especially when the drum's full. So, it's enough to go there, it's enough to go to there, and that is enough to drop down to the socket. So we can put this away now. Got enough cable there, I'll get that clipped up in a bit, out of the way. And now what we need to do is put in our light switch. So, what we're going to need is, we're using the 1.5 cable, we're going to need a twin and earth from where the fuse board's going to be to the switch, and a twin and earth from this switch to the next switch, and a twin and earth from this switch to where the light's going to be. So that's 3 different ones, we'll get that in. Right, so I've got a cable, 1.5 twin and earth, from over where the door is. I'll just put it in roughly for now. It's going to follow the joist down, it goes over that divider, all the way down. Comes through there, and then down to here, where the switch is going to be. Now what this is a feed from one switch to the next. So I need to know that for in the future. So I can either write on it. If I write on it, there's a danger that in the future the writing might become smudged or come off, and it's just going to be a pain to try and remember what it was. So the way I do it with a feed, I cut it on a straight like that, and then very gently and lightly, not to do any damage, I put an X on the outer sheath. And I know now, if there's an X on an outer sheath, it's a feed from one switch to the next, or from one light to the next. So we'll get the next one in now, and I'll show you again. So I've got the next cable in. This also is going to be a feed, so it's feeding power, if you like, to the next switch or the next light. So I've done the same, I've cut it straight, and I put an X on it. So now I've got 2 of the same there, and I know what they both are. This then goes up through, and this is the cable here. And what that's going to do, eventually I'm going to put a second wall in, and that's just going to be a light switch for the big room. So that can be left as it is for now. And then the third cable we need to pull in is a switch wire. So it's going from the switch to the actual light. And I'll get on with that now. Right, so that's all those 3 in. We've got those 2 with an X on. And this last one I've just pulled in, which is a switch wire. The way I differentiate between those is by cutting it diagonally. I put 3 marks on, 1, 2, 3, all diagonally like that. So I know now, if I ever come back in years and years time and I've not finished it, I'll always know what they are and what that is, unless some smarty comes along and cuts them. Again, on the other end, I've done exactly the same and marked them up exactly the same. So back of here, I've just got a jumble of cables now, so I'm going to tidy those up, just tape them up and coil them up, and then I'll put a nail in one of the joists up there and just hold them out of the way for now until I get around to fixing them later date. But priority now is getting this wall up so I can start putting some shelves up and bring some equipment and materials over here. Okay, we've got the OSB on both sides of the walls now. The cables are first fixed in place behind the walls. All I've done is gone around the edge of each board with a few nails just to hold it in. What we need to do now is measure and mark where all the uprights are so we can get some fixings into those, and also measure that 120mm off the floor to the top of the boxes, mark that out and get those cut out. So we'll get on with that now. I've marked each upright. I've also marked 120 to the top. So now what I'm going to do is just put a few nails in these uprights to secure the boards to stop this rattle. What I'm conscious of is that there's a cable coming down here for the light switch and coming down here and all the way along that 2.5mm cable for the socket. So we're not nailing anywhere near that line. We're going to miss a bit above and quite a way below, just to make sure that we're nowhere near any cables. Happy New Year, beautiful people. Today is the next day, it's 1st of January. My battery died on my phone yesterday, so I couldn't film anymore. But what I did do is I marked the top there, I went across with a level and continued that line across. I'm not sure if I filmed lining the wall as well with the OSB. Then I went round with a multi-cutter and cut these holes out for the socket boxes. What I'm going to do today is just going to give everything a spray of paint, just white paint, to just make it look a bit cleaner and tidier. I'm going to go around and do this side too, and then I can start putting some shelves off, putting a workbench in and moving all my tools over. I've just turned up this morning and I've noticed this great big wet patch, and it's not just a wet patch, it's a puddle. So I went outside to sort of investigate where it's coming from. It's in between those two windows, so let's go out and have a look. In between those two windows, where the ground outside is higher than inside, so I've no idea what to even do there, if anything can be done. But I'm sure that's a job for somebody with a bit more expertise than me. The plan was to put that washing machine somewhere there. However, if that's going to be constantly wet, it's not going to be the best, so I might have to change my mind, change my plans, or build some kind of little platform for everything to sit off the floor so nothing gets soaked and damaged, and then try and sort that out at a later date. We'll get somebody to sort it out. So we'll get on with painting this wall, and then we'll have a finished product.